Oh man, what a wild ride that was. My players faced off against Strahd von Zarovich, Curse of Strahd. Campaign episode 18. Oh my gosh, okay. It just happened. It's super late, but I wanted to film this like live right now because this just happened. I'm feeling the whole thing right now. My level 5 group of players, group of level 5 players fought Strahd. Now, yes, I know he would have TPK'd them immediately if this was a true fight. But that was a really interesting part of how I role-played this, is this was not a true fight. He wanted to test them. My whole plot and my whole goals of Strahd and what he wants of the players, he wants to train them and he wants them to get stronger so he can fight them and push himself to the limits for himself to get stronger. Imagine if you're the world's best boxer and you just whoop everyone you ever fight ever. You won't get any better, right? And Strahd and his growth of trying to gain more power, and the stronger Strahd gets, the wider his domain gets, etc. Lots of other things. He wants to fight and get more powerful, right? But he wants to do it through fighting others and train. Like that's the whole thing. It's almost like he wants to train. And then there's maybe a little bit of Dragon Ball Z type of stuff going on there. I want to fight the strongest person, all that kind of stuff, right? So anyway, he wants the players to get stronger, and that's kind of the interesting balance there. Like they do something that is conflicting and in his way. He wants to, he tolerates it so that they'll get stronger, but then he also puts them in their place and keeps them away to be able to get done what he wants to get done because he's still the boss of this land, right? So they have crossed him. They return the bones of St. Andros back to the church, and he's like, okay, you have crossed the line. Now it's time to test you. I am choosing the least favorite one of you, which is Louisa. She's the one that's impressed me the least, right? And I gave out the reasons why. And really, it's that she's not Lars. And that was another funny part of this whole thing, is that Lars is the bard, and he is he made a pact with Strahd, and he is now a basically servant, warlock, patron type servant to Strahd. So Strahd won't kill Lars because he has control over Lars, so why would he kill Lars? And the next one is going to be Louisa, the barbarian. So he is going to, the whole challenge was, I'm going to kill Louisa. Y'all have to try and stop me. Let's see if you can last. You have 5 rounds. And I said 30 seconds or whatever. You have 30 seconds to see if you can keep her alive. And then there we go. So the game was, and I was at a meta level, I told them, you either have to, Louisa has to survive 5 rounds, or you have to bloody Strahd and take him to the bloody condition. One of those two things has to happen. If you can do that, then cool. And they have 5 rounds to do it. Let's go. So the tactics continued, and to not break down the whole thing of like the moves and all the different stuff, it was super cool to see their tactics at the beginning, where Louisa got some distance away from Strahd. They cast Sanctuary on her. She took the dodge action. She ran as far away as she could. Everyone was kind of standing in the way. The rogue was like hiding around the corner, readying in action, and everyone was doing everything they possibly could to protect the barbarian. And then Strahd gets to her in one round, slashes her, gives a huge amount of damage to her, and it's not looking good. That was round 1, essentially. And then round 2, it's getting closer and closer. I think he knocked her out round 2. Yeah, he knocked her out round 2, so got her unconscious. Finian comes in, huge heal. Pug comes in, huge heal, gets her back up. And then he starts realizing, like, all right, these healers are just going to be healing her and all this stuff. I have plenty of things. Whenever you get knocked unconscious and come back, you gain a stack of exhaustion, right? So I was like, you know what? Maybe Strahd's going to go and try and kill her with exhaustion and give it. And he has some spells that I've homebrewed that give 2 levels of exhaustion, 1 level of exhaustion recurring. And I was like, all right, he's going to try and do that. So I started doing that, and she succeeded on the saves every time. Louisa saved every time on these saves. If she failed any of those saves, she would have been done for. And then so that was crazy. And then the rogue got a natural 20 on a sneak attack. I did 2 different hold persons as a legendary action hold person. Again, this is Strahd. I have a whole video I'm going to do on my Strahd stat block. It's crazy. 2 hold persons on the paladin and the cleric, the 2 healers. They both succeeded, beat DC 18s at level 5s and stuff. They were rolling great. It was crazy. And at one point they were like, man, the dice are really telling a story. And I'm like, whoo, I love that phrase. It speaks to me. Oh my God. And it all came down to a crazy moment. So ultimately, each and every player had some crazy moments. Lars came in and he was buffing people doing his thing. But the crazy part with Lars, and this is what I really wanted to hammer in. I talked to the player beforehand and I was like, hey, this is going to be bad. You made a pact with Strahd, and this is part of the consequences, right? So at the beginning of every single one of his turns, he had to make a charisma saving throw automatically. If he failed, he was on Strahd's team. If he succeeded, he could do one turn on his own, and this happened every turn, right? So of the 4 rounds that they got to, actually he didn't get to go the 4th round because it ended. Whether they be good or bad, I'll reveal that in a second. He succeeded and then failed. So that was super crazy. And whenever he failed, the second time he failed, he did enemies abound on the paladin, which means the paladin was going to attack the next closest person to him, which was Louisa. So if he still had enemies abound on the paladin when the paladin's turn came around, the paladin would have made 2 attacks on Louisa and probably taken her out. But the cleric, who's went right before, the cleric zaps Lars, knocks him out with a spell because Lars' health got brought down way low from Strahd doing it. So the cleric attacks their own ally Lars, knocks him out, and the enemies abound spell drops, which was a brilliant move. So enemies abound, concentration is dropped, and now that was a huge move there. Finian also healing, dealing damage, all this crazy stuff. Paladin shifted up the spells and did a thunderous smite instead of a divine smite because they realized that Strahd was immune to radiant damage at first. But Strahd is, the spoiler alert there, Strahd is immune to the first 100 damage he takes because there's something called the Heart of Sorrow inside of Castle Ravenloft, and it's this, I role played it as this like deep hum, like this deep hum somewhere in the castle. Is every time he'd get damaged, there's this hum like protecting him in some way, and it takes 100 points of damage, and after it takes 100 points of damage, it goes dormant, right? And it's stable at 1 hit point until the next day, and it recharges itself, right? So Strahd got the first 100 points of damage. I described as him being completely unfazed by it, and they thought like, man, he's immune to everything. What do we do? This is crazy. But the rogue deals psychic soul damage, which is directly to him and attacking his soul. So I felt like, you know what? That would attack Strahd completely. It wouldn't attack the heart. He would bypass it, which I thought was a cool flavor decision on my part of the types of damage and the way it gets dealt, right? He was immune to radiant because the heart gives him immunity to radiant damage. He had 100 hit points worth of a bubble and all that kind of stuff. So it was super interesting to see how the whole thing played out. And it was the most difficult boss that I've ever ran off as far as what he has and what he's capable of. Again, I'm going to do a whole video on that on the main channel here soon, hopefully. But that was crazy. Then Louisa got away, kept succeeding on grapple checks, kept succeeding on saving throws, kept just smashing crazy on Strahd. It was crazy to see that, and I had to even roleplay like the respect that Strahd was gaining for Louisa in her fighting for her life. It was really cool to see, actually. And then Felix the Rogue dealt a huge amount of damage, sneak attack crits, talking smack to Strahd in and out, because I did have a roleplay element going on through this whole time too. So what happened at the end? The final picture that was painted, and it worked out perfectly for this. And some of my decisions made it be that way as well, and I'll talk about that at the very end. But here's the picture that was painted. It was round 4. Strahd had enough, right? And he made this one big, I did Steel Wind Strike, which is a big ability where he like dashes around and hits everybody. It was this really cool epic moment for Strahd of just boom, boom, just hitting everybody with some stuff. And then round 4 entered, and I described him channeling a disintegrate. Lime green energy fills the room, energy crackling between his fingertips, and he was going to cast disintegrate on Louisa. And round 4, I'm not playing around anymore, disintegrate. And if you get reduced to 0 hit points with disintegrate, you die immediately. And he's not messing around anymore, right? He's like, okay. And like that was kind of the role play perspective for me the whole time, is like dialing up how hard he's trying, because Strahd wanted to just walk in there, kill her, and okay, you guys are useless. And if he's applying this much effort and he killed Louisa, yeah, all right, I'm going to kill another one of you. And it probably might have tried to go kill another one of them. And that would have been crazy, right? But the amount, like the role play that they were doing and like in his face, like fighting against him, like, no, like we will stop, like smack talking him, right? And just showing the confidence that they had, those speaking to him, dealing damage and doing the cool epic moves that they were doing, the tactics and everything were speaking to him. And they kept him at bay at that. And then finally round 4 is like, all right, this is it. So I described he was going to cast Disintegrate. I purposely didn't take any of his legendary actions and waited for this Disintegrate because I wanted to build up to this Disintegrate. And I told everybody, he's not taking any legendary actions right now. It is all coming down to this Disintegrate. And he's going to do it on his turn. And the only 2 people that went before him were Felix the Rogue, and right before him, very poetically so, Louisa the Barbarian. So Felix the Rogue does gets the damage. He gets the damage total to 116 damage dealt. Strahd has, spoiler alert, 300 hit points. Half of that is 150. They have to get him to the bloodied condition, which is 150 hit points. They've dealt 116 damage. They need 44 hit points to be dealt to him. Louisa's turn. She makes 2 attacks, reckless, because she's fighting for her life. Who cares if he hits her next? She has to kill him right now. Or not kill him. I was very clear that you are close to be able to do this, and this is possible. And this is also part of the dungeon mastering of like setting the stage and setting the tone of like this bar. And so I did a brilliantly mulligan. I got a piece of paper and I wrote down the number 44 and I hit it. And I said, okay, deal your damage. Rolled 2 attacks, both hit, rolled for damage. And she said, should I roll the radiant damage? And I said, actually, go ahead and roll the radiant damage. Yes, because they dealt over that 100 damage and the heart went dormant, and now he's susceptible to radiant damage. So she did the radiant damage, she did all the stuff, and the number was 44. I wrote it down on the paper, 44. Okay. She deals the damage. She rolls it up, and then she said 43 was the number. 43 damage. She dealt 43 damage, and I turned over the piece of paper, opened it up, and it said 44 damage. And then I was like, wow, that's crazy. That's crazy. So that would not have been enough. She needed to do 44. She only did 43, 1 damage short. How poetic. Oh my God. Crazy, right? And I was like, this is it. Now it's going to be a dexterity saving throw. Here we go. But they're like, wait a second. She just got off the dwarf, like the dwarf that was like slumped over in the corner, and it had a +1 magic weapon. And +1 magic weapons deal +1 more damage. So she dealt that +1 more damage and got the number, hit the total, boom, done, right? What they don't know, and this is the cool part of the decision I had as a dungeon master in this moment. Strahd has a legendary resistance, where you can spend a legendary resistance to take half damage. It's evasion. It's a rogue evasion, right? And from physical attacks, spell attacks, whatever. I actually used it earlier in the fight against the fireball to half that damage, right? It's just like whenever you fail a save, you can take half damage instead. Same type thing, but this can be all done with melee attacks. It's one of the things Strahd has. I have it written on his thing already. And I was like, you know what? Would Strahd take this? And I said no. And this is not me giving it to her. This is not me like, oh, you know what? Oh, I feel... Because that's not the thing. The way I'm role-playing Strahd, if I wanted to kill Louisa, if Strahd wanted to kill Louisa, he would have done it in the first round. You know what I mean? Like, all the legendary actions, he would have spent his action economy far better. He would have been far more lethal. He would have just killed her. That's not what Strahd's doing. He's testing them. And I had to stay in that role-play moment in my head. I was like, no, would Strahd use this legendary resistance now? Or does this moment speak to him? Is it a moment of respect of these people, these group of adventurers rising up to fight him, and the potential of them being strong enough? Interesting, right? So in that moment, in the same way that's a crazy moment at the table of me saying 44, it being 43, and then, oh wait, actually it is 44. Holy crap, right? That's a crazy moment at the table. And in that same meta moment of crazy respect moment of, wow, this just happened, that's what Strahd felt as well. So I 100% was like, no, this is what the dice are telling a story. The dice are telling a story. This is crazy. Louisa lived. Strahd spared Louisa's life. He did not. I described the role play of it as she hits him and the green energy dissipates from his hand, and then he looks at her with respect. And I said some stuff and all that kind of role play, whatever, about there's never been a group that has came before. There's never been a group that has been able to fight me off and been able to like survive this. Every group that there's been, and he has said, I'm killing you, try and stop me. He's always killed them. This is the first time that it's ever not happened, and he respects the hell out of it, right? Super crazy moment. So that is there, and now we're in an interesting spot, in a respectful spot, and I'm a man of my word. I'm a dungeon master of my word. I don't want to be like, oh, well, no, I'm going to flub here or fudge here or let this happen there and all that kind of stuff, right? There's so many different layers to all of this, and I think it was a beautiful ending to where this happened, and Louisa was able to leave and escape. So now, from the roleplay aspect of it, in the real life, Louisa's the player of Louisa, her name's Sasha, she's leaving and moving states and stuff, right? So now she's no longer going to be a part of the group, which is sad and for real life reasons, sad in the game reasons. And then, we had to have her leave. And now the reasons why, because I always want the story to match up to the real. I don't want to have some meta thing happen and some stupid thing happen in the game where it doesn't make any sense, right? So how this was pitched to what we settled in on as far as the story of why she's leaving is, and this is also something that work with your players, work with the player that's leaving. You as a dungeon master trying to make sure that this is not just some sort of like, oh, Louisa just randomly left. That's crazy. I hate that. So the reason is of the five of them, Lars is Strahd's pawn. Strahd will not kill Lars. Lars is his puppet to do what he wants with. He's not going to kill Lars. The other three of them, Felix, Finian, and Pug, he adores, and that is very clear. I said it actually during the roleplay during combat about how impressed he is with them. There is no way he would just straight up kill them. In some sort of like sport of a game, like, all right, you're going to die. All right, I'm just going to kill you. Great. Right. Because he's still way stronger than them to where he could just kill any of them if he wanted to. Right. And then the only person that doesn't is Lou. So Lou is still on his radar. If they do anything and push the limits on anything, which that's what they're doing. They're pushing back against Strahd. They're fighting back against the darkness that is Strahd. They're going to ruffle his feathers. He's going to come back and he's going to try and kill Louisa again. They're going to have to keep playing this game. So if Louisa runs away, now you have three people that Strahd greatly respects and one of his pawns, Lars the Bard, right? So he's not going to kill them. And they're actually safer here. And Louisa should run and leave the group and go follow Habakkuk, which has been Habakkuk is the god of nature. It's something I've been foreshadowing for about 8 sessions now of Louisa leaving into the forest. And now she leaves into the forest. She's gone, and I will continue a little mini one-on-one things with her in just D20 rolls. Nothing, not like full session stuff, just real side rolls here. And we'll see how that goes on. But now Louisa survived the face-off against Strahd, and it was crazy. And the players got to see Strahd in action. They got to see him trying at different levels. During the first round of combat, I said that Strahd put his arm behind his back, he closed his eyes, and he attacked with one hand, giving himself disadvantage, right? And then he's toying with them. And the rogue smartly jumped on that. He's closing his eyes. Do I now have advantage? Because I was like, oh, man, okay, yeah, I see it. So there's a lot of really cool stuff that all the players were advocating for, all coming together with. All the damage was dealt, literally mattered. Every single point mattered, and it was crazy to see the whole thing, how it all played out. It was wild. So there's the whole deal. They're going to pick up next session inside Castle Ravenloft, and we'll see what happens next, because man, oh man, did I not see that coming. And now they're in Castle Ravenloft, which is also still cool and fun. We'll see if they leave. We'll see where they go, because I have no idea where they go from here. But catch me next time. Stay creative. Think it's on the box. Thanks.